Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Chained Opinion. Today, February 27th, 2025, is a day a lot of people have been waiting for. The Department of Justice is releasing files.
Files related to Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Epstein's crimes, and really the people he was involved with have been just shrouded in speculation and all sorts of conspiracy theories, especially since his death in 2019.
Right.
This release from the DOJ has the potential to answer some long-standing questions.
All right, so let's unpack this a little bit. For those maybe who aren't as familiar, can you give us a rundown of who Epstein was and what he was accused of?
Certainly, Jeffrey Epstein was a financier, and over many years, he cultivated this network of really powerful and influential people. And he was ultimately charged with sex trafficking of minors and was actually awaiting trial when he died in prison back in 2019.
And today, the DOJ is releasing some of the files related to their investigation of Epstein. Attorney General Pam Bondi has stated that this is part of the DOJ's commitment to transparency and holding anyone involved accountable.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note that this release comes amidst a flurry of speculation. Even before today, we saw conservative political commentators at the White House carrying binders labeled the Epstein files.
Wow.
So this preemptive display raises a lot of questions about motivations and potential agendas surrounding this release.
Yeah, it definitely adds another layer to this whole situation. Speaking of the files themselves, what exactly has been released today?
Well, the initial release includes a variety of documents, including flight logs from Epstein's private plane contact lists, names of individuals he associated with, and some evidence lists from the investigation. Some of this information overlaps with what was already revealed during Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, particularly those flight logs.
Right. Maxwell was Epstein's former girlfriend, and she was a key figure in his operation.
Yeah.
She was found guilty of procuring young girls for Epstein and was sentenced to 20 years in prison.
Exactly. And those flight logs are particularly intriguing because they document who traveled with Epstein and to where, and they've already been a source of much speculation and could potentially be used to build a case against others.
And some pretty big names have already surfaced from Epstein's contact book. People like Alec Baldwin, Mick Jagger, Michael Jackson, Naomi Campbell, Courtney Love, even Ethel Kennedy.
Yeah, it's a diverse list, to say the least. But it's important to emphasize that simply being listed in a contact book doesn't implicate anyone in criminal activity.
Absolutely, and we should be careful not to jump to conclusions. This release is just the first phase, so there's still much we don't know. But for you listening, what stands out to you so far? Are you surprised by any of the names, or perhaps you're more interested in what hasn't been released yet?
That's a great point. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It begs the question, what else is in those files and what might future releases reveal? What's fascinating here is the timing of this release.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of an election year. It's hard to ignore the potential political implications.
Right. It does make you wonder, doesn't it? Is this a strategic move by the administration or simply a coincidence? Regardless, it's sure to fuel the already heated political climate.
Absolutely. And with so many high-profile names being mentioned, it's like adding fuel to the fire. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the public sphere, particularly on social media.
Speaking of those names, it's important to remember, as you said, that simply being in Epstein's contact book doesn't equate to involvement in his crimes. There's a big difference between association and criminal activity.
Right. It's crucial to maintain that distinction. And it's important to remember that everyone is entitled to due process. We need to let the legal process unfold without rushing to judgment.
That's a critical point. This initial release feels like a crack in the dam, and we're just starting to see the water trickle out. Who knows what else might emerge as more information is released?
That's the big question, isn't it? We're left to speculate about what else might be in those files and what it could reveal about Epstein's operation, his network, and the extent of his crimes.
What do you think, based on your expertise, are some realistic expectations for future releases? What kind of information might come to light?
Well, it's difficult to say for sure, but it's possible we'll see more detailed financial records, perhaps shedding light on how Epstein funded his activities and who else might have been involved financially.
And potentially even more names.
Yes, it's certainly possible that more names could surface, either from additional contact lists, emails, or other documents.
This case has been a source of intense public fascination for years, with many believing there's more to the story than we know. Do you think these files will finally provide the transparency and accountability people have been demanding?
That's the hope, but it remains to be seen. True transparency would require a thorough and unbiased release of all relevant information, along with a commitment to pursuing any leads that emerge.
So for you listening, I'm curious, what are your thoughts so far? Is this release meeting your expectations? Are there specific questions you're hoping will be answered as more information is revealed?
We'd love to hear your perspective. What stands out to you as most significant in this initial release?
And how do you think this will all play out in the long run? We'll delve deeper into the potential consequences of this release after a quick word from our sponsors. This whole situation feels like a powder keg, and this release of information might just be the spark. What kind of fallout could we see from this, both legally and in the court of public opinion?
Well, it's certainly possible this release could lead to new investigations. If the DOJ finds evidence linking individuals to Epstein's crimes, we could see further indictments and prosecutions.
Yeah, even for those not directly charged, the reputational damage could be immense. Simply being associated with Epstein, even if there was no criminal involvement, can be enough to tarnish a person's image.
Absolutely. And we can't forget the power of social media in shaping public opinion. These revelations will undoubtedly fuel online discussions, and the court of public opinion can be swift and unforgiving.
And of course, this release is only going to add fuel to the fire of the conspiracy theories surrounding Epstein's death. There are already those who believe there was a cover-up, and these files, even with redactions, are likely to be scrutinized for any hint of something hidden.
Yeah, it's almost inevitable that these theories will gain traction. Conspiracy theories often thrive on a lack of information, and this case has been shrouded in mystery since the beginning. Even with increased transparency, some will still see shadows where there are none.
This whole situation is a stark reminder of the immense power and influence that wealth can buy. It's a reminder that sometimes those with money and connections seem to operate under a different set of rules.
Right, it underscores the importance of a robust legal system and a vigilant press that holds those in power accountable. This case, regardless of the outcome, should serve as a catalyst for continued scrutiny of how wealth and influence can impact justice.
We've talked a lot about the potential consequences for those involved, but let's not lose sight of the victims in all of this. It's important to remember that these are real people who have suffered tremendously, and their stories and their pursuit of justice should be at the forefront of this discussion.
Absolutely. The focus should remain on ensuring accountability for the harm done and preventing such exploitation from happening in the future.
This is a story that will continue to unfold, and we'll be following it closely here at Chained Opinion. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for updates and leave your comments below. You can also find us as an audio podcast on YouTube Music and Spotify.
Thank you for joining us for this investigation into the Epstein files.
Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep those chained opinions coming.